What's up, YouTube? I'm here on the 405 freeway this morning, and I'm going to Santa Monica. I got a couple of deliveries in Santa Monica. I got a couple of drops in Culver City. And then after that, I'm pretty sure I'm going to pick some stuff up in Malibu. So I'll be driving through Pacific Coast Highway again today. For those of you who don't live in Los Angeles, if you were wondering what the traffic looks like at 6 in the morning on the 405 freeway southbound, this is it. It's not very fun and it's not very eventful, but this is what people do every single morning. And it's like this from 4 in the morning until 12 in the afternoon. Just thousands and thousands of cars. So anyways, today I wanted to talk a little bit about some of my thoughts on D.O.G.E, the Department of Government Efficiency. The Department of Government Efficiency, right? I think it's a good idea. I think that people going in and auditing the IRS and, cutting frivolous government spending, I think that's a really good idea. I think that the American taxpayer has been exploited for too long. We pay so much money in taxes, and in return, a lot of that money is spent frivolously. And I don't think that's right. I think that we need to do a better job at allocating our funds and appropriate them in a better manner. Because when we don't do that, we have disasters like the one that occurred in Altadena, Pasadena, and the Pacific Palisades. These fires in Southern California really highlight the importance of being more efficient with tax dollars and how important it is to allocate funds appropriately, especially if we're pushing this agenda of global warming and climate change. If we're going to continuously blame these natural disasters on global warming and climate change, which there's probably somewhat truth to, like all these cars on the road are emitting carbon dioxide, and that is probably having an effect, on the temperature or the climate. It's probably, I would think it's almost kind of indisputable, right? You think all of these cars every day are pumping, burning gasoline and diesel and DEF and all this stuff, and it gets trapped within the atmosphere. To me, it kind of makes a little bit of sense, right? Like, that's not crazy. Like, that makes perfect sense. And it could potentially be attributing to, these natural disasters. But if we know that climate change or global warming or whatever you want to call it is a factor contributing to these natural disasters, why would we cut spending on firemen? Don't you think that since the risk or likelihood of these natural disasters, the risk of them is going to increase over time, why would we cut money on the firemen and the police department? And shouldn't we be allocating more money to that if we're more susceptible to risk? That only makes sense to me. We should be allocating more funds to the fire department, not less. We shouldn't be cutting the Los Angeles Fire Department budget by $17 million or whatever it was. We shouldn't be cutting money for the fire department. We should be giving them more money, more resources, more trucks, newer equipment, and we should also be spending the money better and more efficiently when it comes to mitigation and prevention. We need to be creating fire barriers between houses. We need to build houses better as well, out of more fire-resistant materials, which is, probably going to be expensive, but it's probably, building a house out of fire-resistant materials is going to be initially expensive, but it'll be cheaper in the long run when your house doesn't burn down. The Department of Government Efficiency, being more efficient with the tax dollars that we have and allocating them more appropriately. The other day I heard something about, I don't know if it's nonsense or if it's true or if, I don't know. I heard something about Elon Musk is going to cut $1 trillion worth of government spending to be more efficient. But then they were talking about how we could take 20% of that money and we could give it to the American citizens, the taxpayers. Give everyone a $5,000 check. I thought, isn't the whole purpose of the Department of Government Efficiency to be more efficient and cut frivolous government spending? So giving $5,000 to people, some people might be for it, and some people might, really need that money. But I thought the purpose of D.O.G.E was to cut frivolous spending and be more efficient with the money that we have. That's the least efficient thing you could do. Give everyone $5,000 free dollars? Is it free? I don't know. I think that nothing in life is free, and at some point in time you'll pay the price. And let's talk about what that would do. If everyone in the United States got mailed a check for $5,000, what would happen to the inflation rate? How many people some of it would be utilized to pay off debt, which was probably good, but I think a lot of it would be utilized to purchase nonsense things that you don't need, like computers or Dogecoin or Bitcoin, or pay off it's buy a new computer or buy a new iPhone, and how is that efficient? How is that going to be an efficient use of resources? Giving everyone a check for $5,000, and it's going to reinflate, the economy. You're going to have, how many kids are going to take that $5,000 check and dump it into Dogecoin? More ridiculous spending, and it could pay out. You could invest $5,000 on Dogecoin, and then 6 months later it could quadruple, or 100 times X. That's speculation. I don't think that's a good idea. And really, nothing changes. If you cut or slash $1 trillion worth of government spending, and you give it to the people the American taxpayer, nothing's changed. You're just, instead of having the government spend the money, which they shouldn't be because they don't spend the money appropriately, it's pretty apparent. But it's not appropriate to take that money and give it to people for free and have them spend it inappropriately. There's no difference. All you're doing is, instead of the government spending the money inappropriately, the American taxpayer is going to spend the money inappropriately, you know? And it'll be spent inappropriately and inefficiently. Instead of being utilized to pay off the $37 trillion in debt that we have. That would be, to me, that seems like the more responsible thing to do. But nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to focus on paying down their debt, or the country's debt anyways. Everyone just wants to stimulate and spend and spend and spend. If they do give out checks, it's just going to reignite inflation. And if inflation increases as a result of a $5,000 stimulus check going in the hands of every American, that means that the Federal Reserve will be forced to keep interest rates higher for longer. So that dream home that you wanted is further away. That new F-150 that you wanted to buy, further away. More downward pressure on an already slowing down economy. And potentially the reignition of inflation. I don't think that's a very good idea. I think the money should be used to should be put towards the debt. That's what I think. I think that's a more useful way to allocate the $1 trillion in quote-unquote savings. But let's just pretend in La La Land that everyone does get a $5,000 check. That means inflation's going to go up again. Potentially. I mean, it's pretty apparent that that's what happened, you know, when COVID took place and everyone got their stimulus checks for $600, $1,200, whatever they were. They got a couple of $600 checks. You know, that ignited inflation. Everyone took that money and used it to go buy Gucci bags and Rolex watches and G-Wagons and things that they really didn't need. And as a result, the demand for all of those items went through the roof. And then there was a shortage. Like, oh, there's not that many G-Wagons being produced, and there's only so many Louis Vuitton bags. So Louis Vuitton and Mercedes raised their prices. Supply and demand. At the same time that Donald Trump will be cutting tens of thousands of jobs. Yes, they're government jobs, and maybe they are inefficient, some of them, but they're still jobs. So that means the Department of Government Efficiency and Donald Trump, they're going to be cutting tens of thousands of government employees, which means the unemployment rate's going to go up. So you're going to have a higher unemployment rate and higher inflation. I don't know if there's a period of time in the United States where we've experienced both. Typically, from what I understand, when inflation is high, the unemployment rate is low. And obviously the opposite happens. When inflation is low, the unemployment rate is high. But I don't know if we've ever had both of them high. You have high unemployment and you have a high inflation rate. I don't know if that's ever happened. And that would be very interesting if it did happen, to see what, you know, what the effects or outcome would be. You got a really high unemployment rate, and you have a really high inflation rate as well. What do you do in that situation if you're the Federal Reserve? Do you raise interest rates, lower interest rates? Do you stimulate the economy? Do you print money? Do you remove liquidity from the banking system? Like, what do you do? Do you increase the money supply? Do you decrease the money supply? Like, Jesus Christ, talk about a predicament. We're living in some very unique times, that's for sure. It almost, for me anyways, and my experience over the last 6 years, it's almost been like a dream. Like, it's been surreal. Between all the money printing, the pandemic, the fires, the natural disasters, the war between Democrats and Republicans, like, it seems like it's surreal. Like, it's the trajectory in it, when you look at its totality, is just downward. There's a lot of bad things happening in a relatively short period of time, and that's not to mention the fact that we got a war, in Israel. We got a war in Ukraine still with Russia. We have the Chinese, doing flyovers in Taiwan, threatening to wipe the place out. And they will. If they wanted to wipe the place out, they would. They could. Will they do it? I don't know. I hope not. Because that's not good for the economy. I hope that Donald Trump, some people might like him and some people might dislike him, whatever. Like, that's okay. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I hope that he does get these wars stopped. I think that's a great idea. Figuring out the situation between Israel and Iran, that's a good idea. Be more efficient with the money, cut military spending, stop giving money to Ukraine for this ridiculous war that doesn't need to take place. I hope that he puts an end to it. That would be great. That's a great idea. I can't tell you how many people over the last year I've met that were from Ukraine. I'm actually starting to see a lot more people from Ukraine. A lot of women and a lot of children, Ukrainian women, a lot of Ukrainian children leaving and coming to the States. And you can only imagine what would happen if, China went to war or invaded Taiwan. How many millions of Taiwanese people would come to California? You think you got an immigration problem right now? I think millions upon millions of Taiwanese people are coming straight to California if China takes that island. Where else are they going to go? They're not going to Mexico. They're not going to Guatemala. They're not going to be going to Africa, that's for sure. They're going to be coming right here to California. Let's hope that doesn't happen. crazy times right now, for sure. There's a lot of weird things going on throughout the world. It's going to be interesting. So, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. That was my morning little 20-minute ramble. Just wanted to share with you guys some of my thoughts and opinions on the economy and the Department of Government Efficiency and taxes and just some of the things that interest me and stuff like that. Some of the thoughts that go through my head in regards to these things. I find it to be interesting. It kind of passes and kills the time. Everything that I have to say is clearly speculation and should not be, taken as fact either. Like I'm just Cameron. I'm a truck driver, and I'm just talking, and that's it. So, anyways, I got a job site coming up here soon in the next 10 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. And thank you again to all of the subscribers and all of the wonderful comments that I get and the likes and all of the views. I really appreciate that. It's very, very cool. I never thought anyone would even care about what I have to say. And I'm getting pretty close to 500 subscribers now, which is going to be a major milestone for me in my YouTube channel. So thank you again to all of the subscribers out there. I really appreciate it. And until next time, guys, I'll talk to you later.